Hi, it's Tricia from Nature Lover Canada, and today we are hiking the Logging Museum Trail, and we're going to check and see how many chickadees we can get on our heads today. No, we're not. So let's go on the trail. So that's the museum and gift shop. It is closed during the winter, but in the summertime it's open. There's a little video that they usually play. A nice little gift shop with books and souvenirs and some really neat items. And then some of the exhibits are closed during the winter as well. We'll go into the ones that we can, and we'll just look at the different signs and such. It's also a great place to feed the birds, and they know it. They will follow us around, and we'll feed the birds at the end of the video. So in case you don't know, this is Algonquin Park in the wintertime. It's December 2020. We're up hiking. We're actually going the wrong way. We need to go the other way, sorry. We are up here camping and hiking for 3 nights and 4 days. This is our 3rd day, and we leave tomorrow. And it's about a 6.5 hour drive the long way. We won't be going down the highway and through the GTA. Chitrin and Chloe have gone ahead because we've already done a big trail today. You can check the video for that. We did the Two Rivers Trail. Again, it's only about a 2.3 kilometer trail, but it feels much longer in the winter time. It's pretty chilly today. It's supposed to be a low of -10 degrees with wind chill today, getting down to about -14, -16 tonight. So much colder than it was yesterday. So this is the first building. We've got nuthatches and chickadees following us. So this building is called a Caboose Shanty, and it's from the 1800s, and there would have been 52 loggers that would live in this log shanty. You can see some of the pictures and how big the trees were back then. The trees in this area are very young now. Let's see if we can get one of these chickadees to land on our hand without any food. They're going to be very upset. Yep, there we go. There's a nuthatch. And there's no food. He's like, where's the food? How rude. This is how accustomed they are to be fed by hand. That's the second one. And the nuthatch. This is a chickadee. And a nuthatch again. And a different nuthatch. We could just stand here all day. Now I actually do have some seeds in my pocket, and we will try to feed them later. So into the Caboose Shanty. Talk about how this is built. This is a log cabin. Now they have the fire. Normally there's more light in here because there's you can see in the middle here there's a fire pit. And normally in the summertime they actually light this. So the roof would have been open right here and lets in a lot more light. But basically what we're looking at in here, maybe I can show you over here, is a whole bunch of bunk beds. And my understanding is this is actually for 2 men. Each one of these bunk beds, 2 men would sleep on the bottom, 2 men would sleep on the top. They would eat in here. They would do everything that they needed to do in this building, and work in the forest during the day. So this is from the 1800s. This is a recreation. You can see how large the wood is, the logs. And then you can see how they did the roof back then. So what they did is they took a log and they hollowed it out, cut it in half, hollowed it out, and then they set one backward on the other one to create roofing that wouldn't leak. So you can see where the ice is, so the water would come down on that one. It would leak down from the top, come down in the middle like an eaves trough, and then drain down the side of the cabin. And you can see moss is growing on the edge of these logs. So it's quite a large building, but not when you consider the fact that there was 52 people living in it. Now that would obviously keep it a lot warmer. So as we travel down this beautiful trail, it's about a 1 kilometer trail, easy to do, great for kids because you get to see lots of things. Here's yet another building, again, built the same way. And this would have been to house the horses. And that's what they used back in, right up until the mid-1900s, it says, for skidding logs and hauling logging sleighs. I don't know if you can see some of these old pictures or not, but those are from the 1800s. You can see some dogs in the pictures. Always like to see doggies. And large, it looks like Clydesdale teams of horses. So you got some beautiful old style doors with the old hinges. So these all would have been hand carved. You can see the dowels that are going in to hold it in place. And again, it's quite dark in here. Open up one of these things. And there are 4 stalls. Each stall would hold 2 horses. There's no heat in here for them. They would have used the body heat. And this is a window that has a sliding closure so they could open and close it as they needed to. And the entire floor of this building is logged. You can see the logs on the bottom, and they were cut so that they were flatter. So they would probably have more than one of these buildings because they would need, that would house 8 horses. So maybe not. 52 men. Some of them would be cutting the logs, some of them would be hauling the logs, other ones would be possibly squaring the logs, which we're going to see up here. Obviously much more difficult to see some of these exhibits in the wintertime. But we do have posts on our website, natureliver.ca, from summer trips to the park, and you can see some pictures of the other exhibits that are closed, and you can see some of these things without a bunch of snow on them. So this is actually an exhibit showing you how they would square a log. It's quite quite a process. It's a lot of work, and these, you can see how big these logs were if you just look at the end of them. You have to take all the round spots off, so you'd create a square down the middle, and then they would have to cut into the wood and take all those extra pieces off to square it. There's a, hard to see because it's behind glass, but this is a bit of an exhibit on what some of the tools would have been. Not sure if you can see that through there. And they're talking about how they needed to fit them into the ships. And so they would take the bark off and they would square the logs so that they could fit more wood into the ships that would go over to Britain. Now here's a tree that's down. We had a huge storm here in Ontario not too long ago, and a lot of trees throughout the province were blown over. And up here in the Canadian Shield, these trees are not deep. Their roots don't go deep. Very shallow earth up here. Sometimes they're even on rock that they're growing. So wind can be very devastating, especially in a forest like this, which is, you can see this has been a planted pine forest, and when one tree goes down, a lot of trees go down with it. It's just too it's too thick. Too thick. So we'll just walk around this log here. Do-do-do-do-do-do. It's so beautiful back here, though. Here's some more logs that were being shown as being squared. We've got more chickadees that want to come and say hello to us. There he is. Oh, there, it's nuthatch. And you can see how used to they are to being fed, because they're coming even without food in my hand. They're coming to check to see. So that's pretty neat. I have my gloves on, but it's a neat feeling to have them hold on to your fingers with their little feet. It can be a little pinchy. I wouldn't say it hurts, but it's a really, really wonderful feeling. And they're so light. This trail is one of our favorites, not only because of the exhibits that we enjoy looking at numerous times, but because there's a lot of wildlife down at the pond. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So, how do you get the logs out? Well, it almost looks like a trebuchet, but basically you got the pulley system, and they're gonna pull those logs up onto a sleigh. So under there is a wooden sleigh. So they did a lot of this work in the wintertime, because in the wintertime, of course, what is there? There's snow, and there either is ice or you can make ice. Check this out. It looks like feathers. Doesn't that look like feathers? Oh, it's gorgeous. That is beautiful. You're gonna have to take a picture of that. We got some red squirrels out here, little guys. They're still out and about. Hi. Are you coming to look for food too? You can see they're a little bit more skittish. Little guys. are bigger than chipmunks, but a lot smaller than the squirrels we have down in the cities. We're just going to wait until he's finished. He's got 2 more pieces left, and then we'll walk away. We don't want to scare him. I wish I could have the camera lower so you could see his little hands holding onto them and eating them. It's so cute. Look at the markings around his eye, and the 2-tone or the 3-tone colors of his fur. These are cute little guys, and they're quite loud. Hi, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well done. Oh, he just climbed up the stick of my tripod here. I'm just going to slowly get up so I don't scare him. That was pretty good, wasn't it, buddy? Huh? I generally don't feed wild animals, but around here they're so used to being fed that it's a little bit of the experience. But if you were in the back country, you definitely would not want to do that. Or if it was a dangerous animal, you would definitely not want to do that. So here's the next thing. It's a big building. Now the building over top of this is just to protect it. It isn't part of what they wouldn't have this, what would you call it? Almost like a parking garage for this. So this is what they used to ice and plow the roads. So they would basically think of this, they're calling it a tanker sleigh. They would use it at night and would sprinkle water on the routes where they want those sleds to go so that it would be nice and icy the next day. This would be done at night in Algonquin Park. That would be a very cold job. We get a little bit closer. You've got several different places where there would be barrels, because this wouldn't hold water per se. You've got the sleigh, 2 different sleigh feet at the bottom. I would imagine this one would be on a pivot so that you could actually turn it, but I don't know. Again, this is a recreation. So they would use these log things here, and they would haul barrels of water up, and then it would basically sprinkle water along the route. So you'd have very icy routes. And they have the thing for the horses on both sides. Now that may be because this thing probably is not turned very well or at all. So they would go down one way and then pull it back the other way. So this is the plow that they would use. They would plow the road first with this V-shaped plow. And then they would use this to ice the route, so the sleighs could be moved easily, because they would be really heavy, right, with like that many logs on it. Now, for people who know Algonquin Park, it's not exactly a flat area, so sometimes you'd have to move it up and down hills. So it says a log sleigh could weigh 20 tons, which would, there's no way horses would be able to do that. So they would create these pulley systems, and it's really hard to see in the winter here, but this is a pulley system that would help pull the sleighs up and down the hill. So they would still have the horses on it, but it would kind of supplement them, kind of like almost like a braking system. So they have these really long cables, a whole bunch of pulleys. Like if you could see this without all the snow on it, again, check out our website. There are pictures. And this would be hooked up to the sleigh. Again, hard to see in the wintertime, but this would be a reenactment of one of the sleighs. And it would help slow it down or pull it up. Underneath these are metal horses. Again, check our website. There are pictures of them without their little jackets and snow piled on top of it. Trust me, look at that, look underneath. All right, there you go. There's a metal Clydesdale foot under there. So down the hill we go. To number 7. Marking the timber. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, so basically they would stamp each piece of wood, because what they would do is they would float them down riverways, but there would be multiple logging companies doing it. So they would mark their logs so that once it got to the bottom, they could, you know, what's the word I'm thinking of? Separate them into the different logging company piles. Now here's a bunch of color for you for the winter. Tom Thompson and the Logging Museum, or the logging. So Tom Thompson is a famous Canadian landscape painter who is, if you look him up, he's part of the group of, what is that, group of 5, group of 7? Group of 7. And he loved to come to Algonquin Park and Killarney and different places like that to paint and be inspired by the landscapes. But in this versions, these are ones I haven't really seen a lot of. These are actually ones that were done of some of the things that were happening in the logging industry. So that's an old, what's called the Alligator, which we're going to see in a couple of minutes. Log chutes, log camp, the log drive, and we're going to see one of these boats as well. So these are obviously these pictures were chosen to commemorate 100 years, I think, since Tom Thompson did a lot of these paintings. So there's a lot of these around the park that you can see. Quite beautiful. Let's continue on to number 8. This is the cage crib. This one's cool. This one's actually up on the water here, or not on the water, but that again, underneath that blanket thingy is a horse, and the horse would go around and around in a circle to bring in or let out a rope, and the ropes would help to, it had to do with the logging boom and bringing logs and such in. I don't quite know, but, and then you can see on this, because it would be out in the water, there's even a little stable for them. Again, this is a reenactment, so I don't know about you, but that boom would definitely not go around in a circle. It would hit that log there, but you get the idea. And again, way cooler to see this in the summertime, but here we are, still experiencing it and still loving it. And the roof of that shed was built the same way, with those half logs hollowed out and flipped one on top of the other to create like an eaves trough kind of roofing system. So this is actually a beaver pond now. We often see beaver and river otters in this area. So if you're interested in seeing those when you're in Algonquin Park, come down to the Logging Museum trail, down to the pond, dusk and dawn, and you might just check them out. You might be able to spot some of them. Also, different kinds of waterfowl as well. So, here's the alligator. I don't pretend to understand everything about these things, but it's pretty cool, eh? So this was specifically designed to help with moving logs up and down the river. These stairs are rounded. So you can see inside here, all of that cable would be hooked up to a whole bunch of logs in the water. And there's a pulley system so that they can pull them. They can pull them across and kind of control them, you know, and bring them across different areas. And drop my seeds here. And on the other side, I don't know if you can see, I'm not going to go up the other side, but there's a big boiler. So I'm assuming steam powered. Let's go see the sign. Hopefully we'll fall down these stairs. So this is called the Alligator. There you go, steam driven, horse powered. Well, that's okay. Way of moving log booms across lakes. Look it up if you were interested in how it actually worked. I'm not gonna read through this, but this particular one, this William M, was last used on Cedar Lake in 1945. So really not that long ago. In the summertime, this shallow pond is filled with lily pads and some beautiful flowers all along the edge here. So if you enjoy looking at wildflowers, there's some aquatic plant life as well. And you can get really quite up close and personal to it, you know. Now here's one of those boats. Not sure if it's called a dory. Let's go and check. In the summertime, that cover will be off of it, but they're trying to protect it. Quite a long wooden boat. And you can see behind, the snow is coming off their roof in sheets, but it's kind of frozen. So eventually that's going to fall right off. Okay, this is called the Pointer. There'll be a crew in it. These pictures are from 1949. There's a cooking stove in one of them. One of them shooting rockets. Like, holy! That's some craziness there, eh? Famous river driving craft. It's strong and stable, but they drew only a few inches of water and could be pivoted with a tug of one oar. Wow, that's some craziness. I bet you that really took some skill. You really had to know what you were doing. Some other kind of pulley system. And check out this tree behind here, full of woodpecker holes. There's number 11 is just talking about the different tools of the trade. You may have seen if you've ever watched people on log drives, or you know those shows you can watch. Those shows you can watch with the lumberjacks going up and down the poles, or standing on. I don't know if you can see that through the glass, but see where they're standing on the logs and they have the picks. So they had to have tools to make sure that they didn't fall in, but also tools designed to, push and pull logs, because they would get jammed and they would need to unjam them before the next group of logs came down and they were in this even worse position. It was very dangerous work, very difficult work, but very dangerous as well. You can imagine being on water, standing on a log that's wet, more logs coming up behind you. So you'd really need to know what you were doing. Of course, a lot of these were young men just coming up here trying to find work. And they would have to get experience on the job experience in a very dangerous profession. It's very skilled. You could get caught in between logs. You could get caught underneath logs. You could drown in a white water situation. I would imagine some of these young men, some of these people, you know, not everybody knew how to swim back in those days. So it'd be very easy for you to get hurt or be killed. And yeah, be interested to know what the statistics are for that. This would be a log chute. So the pond up above is higher than here. So there would have been some rapids here. Well, logs don't go down rapids very well. So in that situation, they would either divert around the rapids or they would create a log chute. And that's what they did here. They created this wooden chute so that the logs can shoot down. And there's a bit of a dam at the top of this for them to control the amount of water that was coming through. This runs all year round. As you can see, the water's still open at the bottom. It's quite beautiful. And then this is a small stream, which they would have been able to, if they controlled the water levels, they could have had it much higher. Plus, of course, that was a long time ago. Who knows what this area looked like back then. I'll let you know though, the birds that get fed around here obviously get fed primarily at the parking lot or at the beginning of the trail, because I don't see any right now. They're not bothering me, they're not asking for anything. But as we get closer to the beginning of the trail, we'll start seeing them again. And here's just a memorial for a 29-year-old man who passed away 1903. And they're just talking about, I guess I went ahead of myself. Swept away in bone-chilling rapids or crushed when released log jams. Like, you can just imagine getting caught in something like that. That would just be horrific. And there's a picture of men back in 1937 on the Opiongo River. This trail has benches along it if you just want to sit and enjoy looking into the forest or have a little snack. And from there we're actually moving into the newer technology. Things that came about during the logging days. So surprisingly enough, one of the major inventions was a crosscut saw, and some of the teeth would actually remove some of the sawdust and the shavings so that the log wouldn't get jammed. A lot of the buildings we're going to come to next are not open. So I'll just give you a brief idea of what they are. And again, for more information, either check out the Friends of Algonquin website or do a search on our website for Algonquin Park Logging Museum. Hey, Loss. That was the hill I just walked up. Okay. So if we look at the log cabin in front of us, you'll notice it's quite different than the ones we saw before. The logs are smaller. The space in between these ones are actually chinked with cement. And the roof has wooden rafters, a wood planking, and then the top would be covered with a asphalt paper that looks like this for waterproofing. This door that you can see, they've got different hinges. So we're in a different generation here. Same idea with the building across there. So these saw log camps are more from the 1940s. They're talking about how different they are, how there were several different buildings, including a blacksmith's shop, a stable, bunkhouse, and cookery. So instead of everything being in one or two buildings, there were several different buildings. So like that cookery looks more like a kitchen, like from a restaurant almost. And they would have people who were hired specifically to cook. Look at all the clothes. Look at all the clothes hanging up in that one. So there is a blacksmith. I believe that is the blacksmith building. And during the summertime, you can walk into it. Sometimes I think they do actually, heat up the furnace and do some work in there. But other than that, you can see a lot of different of the tools and metalworking that they would have done back then. So it's kind of cool if you're really interested in that sort of thing. The next building here with the ring-a-ding-ding. Well, you'll also notice there's glass windows now. There were no windows back then, which is probably a good thing because that is the most difficult thing in any house is to insulate the windows, especially single pane. Does your mom have one of these outside of her house? Great big triangle made out of just basically bent metal with a metal rod. And this is what the cook would have used to call the men for dinner. Are you ready? They just kind of, loudly and aggressively cling, ding, 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 through there. And the men would come running for dinner. We all need one of those. So these next little buildings actually have audio-video exhibits in them. So you'd have to come back during operating hours, and probably not during COVID, to sit and listen to those presentations and check out some of the pictures and video they have from the past. Now check out that chainsaw. Holy! That's a two-man chainsaw. One person would hold it with two hands from here. I know it's hard to see through this glass. And then the other man would hold it from this handle. It's called the Oregon Chipper Chains and Solid Temper Saw Bars. These two-man saw chains appeared in the 1940s. And they could cut down hardwood trees like maple and yellow birch. And those were the kinds of things that they used during wartime, it says. They would use coal-fired donkey engines. I just like the words. I don't know what they mean, but I just like the words. Coal-fired donkey engines. So like I said, we're getting into more of the modern part of the museum. Here's an old pickup truck. This is an International. You might know that company they make transports. So this would be a way for them to get some of their logs out of the woods without using horse-powered sleds. My dad would like that vehicle. Now the next machine is for when the pickup truck can't get into the area where the logs are. So this one's super crazy. If you like monster machines, you're gonna like this one. This one's called the Timberjack. Check that out. It's got a plow on the front with hydraulics. Huge tractor-style trail tires. A roll bar. I imagine the engine is quite something. This was probably donated from somebody in Barry's Bay, it says. That's pretty cool, eh? Look at that seat. And on the back is a Hercules winch. Powered winch. So you'd hook up the logs behind and you would drag them. And they have those cables that basically just tighten up around the log and you just pull them out from the forest. So you might have the logs way out in the forest, you know, obviously no longer than the length of the cable. And you'd cut them down, you'd pull the chains out into the forest, tie them on to the ends with these basically self-tightening brackets that they have on there. And then you could come back to the vehicle after hooking up, you know, however many. This one has 4 cables on it, but I'm sure you could probably have more than 4 cables. And then just pull, power up that winch and just pull those logs out of the forest wherever they were. So that's pretty cool, right? So ran out of space, ran out of power. I think I was talking about this in a previous video about bringing extra batteries on cold days. So we got about 17 of the 20 or 19, so almost to the end of the logging museum trail, which is only 1 kilometer long. I hope you enjoyed learning about logging through the years here at Algonquin Park. We also got a little bit of bird time. There's one sitting right on my dead cat right now, and we showed you and there's another one on my dead cat, and how easy it is to get a bird in Algonquin Park to come and visit you. Now they're going to prove me to be a liar in a minute, because they all came now and they're just like, no, there you go. So you can just put your hand out in the wintertime in the parking lot, with or without food, preferably with food, and you can get one on your head, you can get one on your camera, you can get one on your hand, and they'll just come and visit you, and it's really cool. It's a nice experience. Try not to feed them anything that will hurt them, and you know, don't overfeed them. There's a big storm coming tomorrow, so they may be reacting to that. Hi. So, Logging Museum, Algonquin Park, December 2020. I'm Tricia from Nature Lover Canada. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed the birds, because I certainly did. We did get a picture yesterday of a whiskey jack, otherwise known as a gray jay. That came and fed from us, but no videos today. They're a little shy today for some reason. But that's another bird that you can see here in Algonquin Park. So new videos every Thursday. Think of subscribing and let us know what you think of our recent video in the comments below. Take care, and we'll see you out there. He's on your camera. Like, this is not right. Where'd the food go?